Well, I've been thinking about sharing this for a really long time. Um, I don't often have a chance to share this, and it's really late at night, so you might need to turn the sound up a little bit because I'm trying to be quiet because my son is sleeping right next to me. But um, I just wanted to share my testimony, and I feel like I've been putting it off for such a long time, and it's hard to share, and I know the devil does not want me to share this testimony. I grew up in a Christian home. We went to church on Sundays. Thursdays we'd have worship practice in our home. My parents were both in the worship team. We'd have like cell group, which is like kind of like a Bible study sort of thing in our home even. And we were pretty involved in the church for most of my childhood, basically from 0 until 12. We were pretty consistent. Like my dad, he always made sure we were in church. And even when we weren't in church, my sister and I, we would take my mom's worship. Like they had binders back then, not phones. So it was like a binder with all the songs printed out. And when my parents would go out like on a date or something, my grandma would babysit us, and me and my sister would lock ourselves in my mom's room, take out her binder, and then sing all the songs and memorize all the lyrics together. And we didn't know it, but little did I know that it was literally planting a seed. Because after when I got saved, every single song that I memorized, I must have been maybe like 10 years old, 8 years old, I'm not sure. But every single song that I memorized from church, like every single song just came back. Right away, like, I guess I'll explain that later in the testimony. But my parents, they got divorced when I was around 12 or 13, I think it was 12. And that was kind of like, I don't know, I didn't know how to take it, so I kind of internalized it. Not in anger, but I became extremely depressed. Like I had like extreme depression and like severe anxiety and stuff. And because I love my parents both so much, and family was like the most meaningful thing to me and stuff. So grade 7 came. That was like about a year later. I think it was grade 6 when my parents divorced. And then grade 7, 8 was like around the time I started hanging out with like bad crowds, because they were like the ones that would accept me, because I was like an outcast everywhere I went. And it wasn't as common back then for your parents to be divorced. And I guess by grade 8, like I was hanging around these kids, and like they were doing drugs. They're like bringing them to school, and like at recess they'd go in the corner and go to drugs, and like they were drinking and doing all this stuff and smoking. But for me, like I had no interest in that stuff because I knew how I grew up. Like my parents taught us like we don't smoke, we don't do drugs, we don't go around and get drunk and stuff. So for me this was like strange. Like I didn't know my friends would do this. I thought they were just like kind people. I didn't know they were into all these things. So I stayed out of it. Like if they went to do it, I just said no, and I would just go home. And we lived in like the worst area of our city, so it was like the worst neighborhood. So it wasn't really a safe area to begin with. And like kind of in my free time, I would just go with my brother and sister, and we would just go play basketball in the court like near our house and stuff. But like a lot of bad things would happen around there, like crazy stuff. But like we didn't even like really seem to know or notice. So, and then like around grade 9, I think like the people in high school like were not nice to me. Like I would just eat lunch alone. I would usually go home for lunch, and then or if I had to stay, I would eat lunch in the bathroom because people would just not let me sit with them just for no reason. Like I want to be friends with whoever would be friends with me. Like I didn't care about the whole clique thing or anything. Like I don't care if you're popular or if you're not popular. Like I'll be friends with you if you're kind, like a genuine person. But I just people just did not like me and didn't care to even talk to me. So and then like a lot of like the popular kids and like even like the guys and stuff, like they would make fun of me, like oh like making fun of my teeth and stuff. Like yeah, I don't have perfect teeth, but I people would just like mock you and stuff. Like and for the first year of high school I had glasses and then I got contacts, but like they would mock my glasses and stuff, and like kids were just not nice basically. So I kind of like internalized that a lot. Like I wasn't really someone who would like lash out on people or something or like fight them or whatever, but like I kind of just I would like internalize it, like I just become more depressed and more depressed and more depressed. And then by grade 10, it was kind of like my first time like I ever prayed to God. Like in church and stuff, I never prayed. I never even opened the Bible. Actually, I didn't even read the Bible until I was about 23 years old. So, but at this point, like, I didn't know anything about God. And I remember there was this moment, and there was a really bad storm. Like, I think it ended up being like a funnel cloud or tornado. I don't know. I don't remember what it was. But we didn't know, and then like we were just laying in bed, and then all of a sudden like this wind just whipped through our window, and it was just me and my sister and brother home, and our mom had gone out. I forget where she went, but she had to go out, and she didn't know a storm was coming. We didn't know a storm was coming. It was just like out of nowhere, and like we were so worried. Like, where's mom? Like, is she okay? And like I remember we just all ran down the stairs because we lived in like this little townhouse, and like we all ran to the bottom of the stairs, me and my brother and sister, and we just huddled in a circle like on the ground. And I remember my sister saying, guys, let's pray. And so we just all huddled together and we're like holding each other and we're like praying like, God, make this storm stop. God, please keep us safe. And we never prayed really, so we didn't. I believe that was God because we didn't know what we were doing. And as soon as we prayed that, the storm stopped, and my mom came home within like minutes, and we were safe. And that was like kind of like my first real encounter. And it was also like the same year that I met the first person who was a Christian in school. Like I'd never heard of a Christian in school before, and like every kid I ever talked to or saw was like a secular kid. And I met this girl and she was Christian, and she was like she wanted to be friends with everyone. Like she didn't care about the cliques either, and she was just like, if you're kind, then I'll be your friend. Like I want to be friends with you and stuff. And so sometimes she would talk to me, and I kind of thought she was my friend, but I wasn't really fully sure. So, but I remember one time she invited me to an outreach at her church, and I was actually really excited to go. And even though like I was kind of a shy kid, like well, not really shy, but like really anxious, like, so I didn't really like I hesitated going, but I'm glad I did go. And that was the first time I went to a church just to like help the homeless and stuff. And I really enjoyed doing that and just like talking to people. And even though I was like shy, but like I had no problem talking to people who were strangers, I guess. And we ended up having to move again. So in between this time from like grade 6 to grade 10, I think it was, I think we moved about like 3 or 4 times within that time span. So this time we were moving to a different city, and I think it was a bigger city. and it was like at least 3 hours away from where we were. So any friends we had or any family, we wouldn't really be able to see them. So we were moving to this new city, and then this new school I started going to was a pretty bad school. Like a lot of bad things happened there. There was a lot of like lockdowns and like shootings and stabbings, and like someone even like got pushed down a flight of stairs, I remember, like, and like they didn't survive it. And like there was just a lot of crazy stuff that happened at that school. Like I remember my friend just like got beat up for no reason, and she wasn't even doing anything wrong. She was a kind person, but like the other person who pretended to be friends with us, she didn't like her, and so she just punched her in the face and broke her nose. And that just like broke my heart, because that was like my best friend in that school. And whenever I went to school, like usually I only had like one friend at school, and that was my one friend. And she was younger than me by a few years, but she was like the kindest person that I'd met in a long time. And just seeing like so much corruption and stuff, and then like meeting new people in the school and stuff, and like I started getting into like the whole emo scene kid crowd. I'm sure some people know what that is. Like and these friends, like they're like accepting of me, and so it's kind of like I didn't even like really like their music, to be honest. Like I didn't like the whole metal music. I didn't like the screaming and all that kind of stuff. Like I was pretty much into like R&B and like rap and stuff like that, and hip hop. So it's kind of different for me, but I saw that these people, they were like accepting of me, and I never seen that before. So it's kind of like luring me in, which was not really a good thing. But so this group I was hanging out with, and I had like more than one friend, and like it was just so different. And like these new friends, they were into like, it was kind of similar to the people that I was hanging around in grade 8. But this time, like, I fell for their peer pressure, and I started getting into drinking. That was like my first time, was in grade 12. And I didn't smoke weed with them or anything. Like I didn't get high with them, but I did drink with them like all the time. And like I started going to their parties, and like I was introduced to this party lifestyle, and I found out that when I drank, like I was like a really outgoing person. So it was like it changed who I was, basically. And so I would just use it to take away my anxiety and take away my depression. It was like a crutch, basically. But that was kind of like the beginning of like a downward spiral. And then I guess I kind of got kicked out of my house at that point. And I was also dating someone who was like, I don't know if I can say it on here or it's gonna get censored, but they were very abusive, like not just like mentally or anything like that, but like physically. But actually a bit before that, maybe like half a year before that, this one guy, he was like a year older than me, and he said all the right things to me, and I kind of fell for it. And this was kind of my second encounter with God, in praying to God. And the person had like cheated on me and stuff, and I found out, and I was like devastated, because that was like I grew up with like certain morals that were biblical, and the people that I started hanging around, like they didn't care for the Bible, they didn't care for Jesus. And even though I didn't read the Bible, but I just knew these things. I guess my parents taught me and stuff. these values. And so I found out this person basically cheated on me with someone else, and well, several people, like, and but the thing was, like, they told me that if I was to leave, that they were going to basically commit suicide, and they held a gun up to their head, and I had to basically convince them not to do it. And this was over the phone, though, so it wasn't in person. They did it on a video call, and I told them, just hold on 1 minute, and I ran downstairs to my mom's basement, and I started like crying, and like cried out to God, and I didn't know what to say, and I said, God, please, Lord God, if you're real, Lord, just please hear this prayer. Like, this person, they want to commit suicide. They're gonna shoot themselves if I leave, but I know that I need to leave this situation. Lord, please help me to get out of this. Help me to say the right things, to help them too, Lord. And basically it was just a really quick prayer, and then I ran back upstairs, and I said to them, like, I'm not angry at you, like, I don't hate you, like, just put down the gun and everything will be okay. And they put down the gun, and I never heard from them back since then, and that was it. And then I ended up moving to my dad's house, which was near Toronto, and so it was like a completely different environment, completely different city, and it was a bit outside the city, but it was still within the GTA area, if you're familiar with that. And I was with this guy, and he told me he loved me, kind of the same story again. Like, they said, oh, I love you, and like I'm like basically telling me how great they are, and I kind of fell for it again, because at this point, like, I was really like missing my dad and stuff, and like missing the love of my father in these moments, because he couldn't be around so much. Like, I only saw him like once a month, maybe twice a month. So I think that there was like this emptiness in my heart, that if anyone said, oh, I love you, then like right away I'd be like, oh, you do, like, wow, like, and it was like I was missing something, and I didn't realize it at the time. And so there was this guy, and he said, like, oh, I love you and stuff, and like, and he's like, but I have to warn you, like, I'm a bad guy, just so you know. Like, I'm warning you. I'm not gonna use exactly what he says, like swearing, but and I said, no, it's okay, like, don't worry about it. Like, I was overly, like, too overly nice, like, I was deceived, basically. And I thought, like maybe I can help them, like, that was always like my thought, like, oh, I can help people, like, I don't know. That was my mindset. And what happened was, like, again, there was like drinking and stuff, and just, it wasn't really good. And then it got to a point where, like, where I was locked in my room at one point, and then he started just like beating me up, like, out of nowhere, and I was like what's going on? And like, sorry, he was saying things like, oh, it's okay, like, and then he would like slap me and like punch me, and I'm just like crying, and he's just like thinks it's like it was a joke and stuff, and like, and it was just a lot. But I didn't leave. I was scared, honestly. And I remembered that my dad had given me a Bible at this time, I had a Bible in I had it in my closet. It was a King James Bible. It was like one of my dad's original Bibles he had. I don't even know how old it was. Maybe 1970s or 80s. I don't know. But I set it in a box. I remember I didn't want this person who I was with to see that I had a Bible, because I knew that he hated the Bible because his family, they came from like a cult, and like it made him hate the Bible, and then just so I didn't want anyone to know I had a Bible, and I put it in a box. But then we ended up moving, and then I don't know what happened since then, and it got lost. Like the box was just gone, and I never saw the Bible again. I don't know what happened to it to this day, but I really wish I'd have kept it somewhere a little more safe, not like just in a random box. But I know that my dad gave it to me for a reason, and I wish I had have opened it at that point. But it was a time in my life when I was not ready to. I remember one time my dad invited me to church, and like I was completely like hungover from drinking the night before, and like it was still like this time when I was like dressed up like emo scene kind of kid. So like I thought people were gonna think I'm crazy if I go there, but I went there anyways with my dad, and I really wanted to go because I know deep down I still love church. I love going to church with my parents. Like that was something we always did together, and I wanted to go. But when I got there, like the devil was just messing with my mind the whole time at the church service, I remember. And I saw like them waving flags at the front, like dancing to the music, and I was just like, why are they doing this? Like, what are they doing? Like, I was kind of like really like, I don't know if I was like proud, but like I was just kind of like confused, like what are these people doing? Like I want to be here, but like no one's even talking to me. Like not one person greeted me or said anything to me. I just kind of like in the back, and like no one even noticed that I was there really, even though I really probably stood out. But I remember just being there with my dad. That was the most important thing to me, just like spending time with my dad, and that's what he liked to do, so I wanted to do it too. And that was kind of like the last time I went to church. That was probably when I was about 18. 18 or 19, I think 18. And then after that, there was just like a lot of crazy stuff that went on, like just a lot of drinking, partying, clubs, just so much crazy stuff. Like a lot of it involved drinking though, and just like foolish things like hookups, and like just like drinking so much that I'm just like out of my mind, out of control. I don't know what I'm doing. Sometimes I don't remember what I'm doing, to the point where one time like I had a party at my dad's house when he wasn't there. It was like really stupid, but and then this guy who was supposed to be a friend of mine, he ended up like drinking with us, and waking he like when like woke up next to me, and I'm like, what's going on? Like I must have like blacked out. I didn't even know what happened when I woke up in the morning, and like he told me like, oh yeah, I have a tendency to do this stuff with women when they're blacked out, and I had no idea what happened, even like to this day. But the worst part was that many years later I found out that that person had committed suicide, and like I didn't even know what to think. It was just a hard time, I guess. And there's just like so many crazy things that would happen, and I remember at one point just walking with my friends. I was like so drunk and out of my mind, and we were walking to the grocery store. It was like the middle of the night, and it was the only place that was open, and we were drinking underage, so I guess I was of age, but my friends were a few years younger than me, and police stopped us, and we were just sitting on like the curb outside the grocery store, and some of my friends had done like drugs, and I was drunk and my friend was drunk, and they like stopped us and like, hey guys, like how's it going? And I remember in my mind just like suddenly like my sense, I just came to my senses, even though I was like out of it. I suddenly came to my senses at the same time, and I was like pretending so hard like to just be like fine, like, oh no, we're fine, we're just getting something to eat, and then we're just heading back home. And they're like, okay, have a nice day. And like, I don't know what would have happened if they caught us and stuff. I don't know. But I'm just thankful that we weren't. And then I thought about it for a little bit, like, what am I doing? Like, and then a few months went by, and I was thinking, like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I'm drinking and drinking and drinking. Like, I'm not going anywhere with my life. And then my dad was telling me, like, you need to go to college. And I was like, yeah, I guess so. Because I want to listen to my father, right? Because even though I was like going through all these crazy things, and there's just too much things to even think about, but I still wanted to listen to my dad at the same time. In the back of my mind, I knew the truth, and like even my friends would like mock God and say they would like use his name in vain and stuff like that. Still bothered me, even though I was in the world, because I knew, like deep down, I knew that Jesus was God, but I didn't know, like I didn't have a relationship with him. And so when I was like 19, I decided that I was gonna go to college, and I didn't know what I was gonna do. Like I ended up going for cosmetics, like makeup artist, but honestly, like it was a struggle to go to college because I didn't have any money, and the money that I did receive for college, like it wasn't enough. I could barely afford to eat. I could barely afford to bus to school every day, because it would take like 2 hours on the bus just to get from the town I was in called Newmarket all the way to Toronto. Like driving there is not far, but on a bus it's so long. So, and I had to take 2 different buses, and it was just so much, and I had to pay for all this like cosmetic stuff, and it was just very expensive. And honestly, like I was failing some classes because they had nothing to do with cosmetics, like math and business. Like those are really my weak points. So I was like failing some of those things anyways. And it just got to the point where like I didn't know what I was doing with my life, and I just started going back to like drinking and going to clubs and going to parties, and then one day a friend had messaged me on, well, we used this thing back then called MySpace. I guess that would have been like 2009, 2010. And they said like, hey, look at this video. And I was like, oh, what's that about? Like, oh, it's exposing the music artists in Hollywood, and because I saw you were listening to this artist, and did you know this about them? And I was like, what? No, that can't be true. Like my favorite artist back then was Beyonce, and that's the video they shared with me, and I was like, no way. And then they shared another one, and they're like, oh, did you know this about the food industry? Like, did you know this? Like, and I was like, no, that can't be true. And then, because I was eating, like, very unhealthy. Like, I was eating, like, kimchi Mr. Noodles, salt and vinegar chips. Like, I was just eating junk all the time. I had no idea how to eat healthy. I just ate whatever I could afford and whatever I could find, basically. So, I saw these 2 videos, and then I was like, wow. And it really got me thinking, like, is this true? And then, like, I was, like, realizing, like, this must be true. And it was, like, from this person called Alex Jones. I don't know if he's still around today or not, but for that year, like, I kind of was, like, thinking about things, and, like, even, like, I was listening to, like, Nicki Minaj and stuff, and, because she was, like, a new artist at that time, and then I was realizing, like, some of these songs are, like, really bad, and I was starting to get a little convicted, like, what am I listening to? And then I kind of, like, pushed it to the side, though, like, because I really liked music. That was a big part of my life, because my parents were both into music all my life. My life was, like, surrounded with music. So I kind of pushed it aside, and I kind of, like, pushed in a new kind of music, because I was kind of convinced, like, fully about Beyonce, and then so I started listening to K-pop, because my friends in college, they were Korean, so I just started listening to, like, K-pop songs. Not that it's any better, but it wasn't as bad, I guess. And then around that time, I met my now husband, Michael, and I told him about, like, these things, like the music industry and, like, the food industry and all that stuff, and I thought maybe he'd think I'm crazy or something. And then we started looking up like the book of Revelation and how it goes along with it, like parts were going with it, and started reading that. So I started looking into Revelation and reading parts of it. I didn't have a Bible, though. I was just looking it up on, like, Google and stuff. And then after that, I started reading, like, parts of the book of John, and just reading, like, the gospel, and it was, like, really convicting to me, because for me, I love to read. So for me to read that, like, I was like, wow, this is amazing and true. And I knew it was true. And I was like, I always knew this was true. I just never knew really about it. And I really didn't have that relationship with Jesus. I was still, like, an unbeliever at that time. But then I found out I was pregnant, and I was an unbeliever. So for me, I didn't really know, like, that you shouldn't get pregnant before you're married. So but I felt like from the moment I was pregnant, like, it was under attack. Like, I had, like, a roommate, and then, like, they wanted to literally, like, kill my baby. And I said, I know I made a mistake, but I would never ever kill a baby. So I will not get an abortion. I'm going to keep this baby, and this roommate is not going to harm my baby. So my dad had to kick my roommate out because of the violence, and then I ended up moving with my now husband to back to my mom's city, which was my hometown. And because my dad had to move out, and he had to move to a different place, so I didn't even know how to tell my dad, because I felt like I was just gonna disappoint him. But I knew that he loved me, and I knew that he wouldn't, like, I just didn't really know what to think. So I told my dad that I was pregnant, and I was expecting him to be really angry with me and disappointed in me. But he came as a loving, like, kind father, as he always has been. And he sat me down, and he talked to me, and he helped me, and he did whatever he could to basically help me. And I was just so relieved. Like, I knew I made a mistake, but I was so thankful that he just came as that loving father. And then I ended up moving. So we ended up moving back to my hometown for a little while, and I ended up going back to my home church there, and then 2013, I ended up accepting Jesus as my Lord and Savior that year. And it wasn't anything like anything extreme. Like, it's just I went so far, I was so far gone that I just hit rock bottom. And like this was like my turning point when like I need Jesus in my life, and I want to live for him. Like, I knew I had to make that decision after all that I've been through, and like just constantly just being like a runaway, like a prodigal daughter basically. And I knew I just had to come home and just come back to Jesus. And I went to church with my mom. I'm not sure if my husband was there, if he was working, but I remember I went to church with my mom and my daughter, and I knew that I wanted to raise her in the ways of the Lord 100% since she was born. And I didn't want her to make the same mistakes that I did. I wanted her to grow up to be an amazing woman of God, and to stay on the right path, and not to like fall away like I had. So I had I would take her to church all the time, and like we go over Bible verses together. And she was only like 2, but at that time, I guess. And then 2014, I think it was, 2014, my husband and I got baptized in the same church that like my childhood church. And I have to say, like, when I was baptized, that was a huge change in my life. I just remember coming up out of the water, and I just saw like this bright light, and just felt like all the weight was lifted off my shoulders, all like these anxieties I had, and heavy depression, like it was like lifting off of me. And it was just an amazing thing at that time. And then around 2015, I had this dream of this church, and it was not in Peterborough, which is where I grew up, but it was in Toronto. And I had never seen this church before. I never heard of it at all. And it was like a little white, it was painted white on the outside, and inside there was like these brown pews, and they stained glass on the inside. And I didn't know anything about it. I just knew that this is the church, and God said, "You're gonna go here." And I was like, okay, I don't understand this dream. But then, like, within a week, my husband got a phone call from a friend, and he said, "Hey, I have a job offering for you in Toronto." And I was like, Toronto? Like, that, I just had a dream about like being in Toronto. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but and then we ended up having to move there. And that same year, like within a few months, someone from a church who I had on my Facebook, I didn't even know who it was. It was just like a random person. I didn't even know she was on my Facebook. And she messaged me, and she said, "Hey, I heard you were looking for a church to go to in Toronto. You should come to my church." And I was like, okay, sure. And I told my husband about it, and he's like, "Hey, I know that church." And he's like, "I went there once before or something, and I know the pastor. I saw him preaching downtown, street preaching." And I was like, okay, I don't know what this church is, but let's go, sure, why not? And so we went, and when we went to the church, when we went in the doors, I was just like, wow, this is exactly what I saw in my dream. And I had no idea. And this is in Toronto, in my dream. And I was like, wow, God, you are so good. Like, I didn't even know that. I had no idea. And I just knew, like, this is our home church. Like, I knew it, because this is what God has shown me. And I told my husband my dream, and he's like, yeah, we should start going here. So then we started going there, and to this day, we are still attending the same church. So 10 years later, basically. And yeah, that's my testimony. I think I left out a lot, but just to get like, hopefully, but yeah, that's my testimony, and I hope it can be a blessing to you and encourage you to also share your testimony. So, thank you for listening. God bless you.